This here is another viewer's broken gaming PC. This one's a bit large. It's also a bit dirty. Maybe a bit is an understatement. There's dust everywhere in this thing. I generally tell folks to try to clean up their rigs somewhat before dropping them off here, just for aesthetic's sake. No one wants to stare at a dirty system in a video unless it's being deep cleaned. And this isn't one of those episodes, unfortunately. We're here to fix a pretty serious issue. The owner says he built this PC about 6 years ago during the pandemic and recently changed the thermal paste for the first time. This was about 2 weeks ago as of time of filming. By the way, I'm reading his description directly because I don't want to get any of this info wrong. It's pretty detailed, but I think it will steer us in the right direction. So, system was running fine for 6 years. He repastes and then runs into problems. He says he was gaming and a lot of explosions and intensity happened on screen all at once that caused the PC to crash and restart itself. And then since that's happened, he hasn't been able to get the PC to stay on at the desktop for more than a few minutes before restarting over and over. He says he tried formatting all of his hard drives and giving the PC a fresh Windows install on one of his newer M.2s just in case, but that has not resolved the issue. And that tells me that we're likely looking at a hardware issue, not a software one. Now, apart from the caked up dust, there is a lot to love about this system. There's an RTX 3090 in it, a 10th gen Core i9 CPU, I believe either 32 or 64 gigs of DDR4. All 4 DIMM slots are populated. In today's day and age, that's a pretty penny just by itself. There's a beefy power supply in here, and it's all housed in this very large Helios case from Asus. Not my cup of tea, but for folks who like larger systems, I mean, there's plenty of breathing room in here. But when the rig insists on restarting itself over and over, completely unprompted after only a few minutes of idling, that's a serious issue, and it pretty much renders this entire thing useless until we get to the bottom of it. I think we'll be able to sort things out by the end of this one. I hope you will stay with me.
Are you sitting on a gaming PC without an activated copy of Windows? Forget $100+ retail keys, instead snag an OEM Windows 11 key for a fraction of the price to unlock the full potential of the OS. Oh, and don't worry, they'll still remove those pesky activation watermarks. Just click the links below to get started today, and be sure to use our special offer code SKGS for a sweet discount on a variety of options including Windows 11 Pro, Home, and more.
Hello there, and welcome to Fix or Flop, a playlist where we attempt to fix broken gaming PCs like this one for free. We don't charge for labor, of course, or replacement hardware if necessary, and that's thanks to your viewership. As much as I would love to tout that this is a service that I offer out of the goodness of my heart, I'm not that nice of a person. I only have so much time in the day. I've got my family, right? I've got rent and, well, not rent, I've got a mortgage and other things to deal with, right? Finances, and I simply could not afford to do this and pay for all the components and things that we've shelled out over the years if it weren't for your viewership. So the fact that we can monetize on the back end because of that is such a cool privilege, and I only hope to continue this into the near future, especially as components get more and more expensive with the boom of AI and the impacts that it's had on this industry. It's unfortunate. I'm not sure how much longer that's going to last, but I hope to be here in the meantime to keep rigs like this up and running. Now, speaking of, I have a few suspicions about what the issue here could be. I don't think it's a coincidence that this issue has popped up after 6 years of running stable around the same time that the owner decided to repaste his CPU. A quality of mine that could be perceived as either a good or bad thing, depending on who you are, over the years that I've developed is that I tend to be pretty blunt. And when the owner described again in person the repasting that he did to the CPU and how that coincided almost perfectly with the symptom popping up, I told him pretty bluntly, that probably has something to do with it. It's possible that you messed this up when you maybe reseated the CPU or repasted and then remounted the CPU cooler. Maybe you didn't apply enough mounting pressure. Maybe you did it incorrectly. Maybe it's sitting lopsided atop the IHS, and so you've got severe hotspots and the rig's thermal throttling as a result. Right? I'm wargaming in my head, and I'm just kind of spewing this stuff out without really thinking about whether this is going to upset the person who's hearing it. And like I said, that's why I say for better or for worse. Sometimes I shouldn't do that, but this owner took it very well, and he even admitted, yeah, that could be the case. Maybe he damaged the socket, maybe a couple pins are crossing each other, you know, it happens. Again, I've done this before as well, so I'm not putting it past anybody. It is just a reality of working with very fine details and motherboards and sockets and things. So that's where I want to start my search. But before that, we need to try powering this on and replicating the issue. Because if it runs fine here in the office, I definitely don't want to go poking and prodding around here. There's a lot of expensive components inside. Let's give it a power on. Where's the, oh goodness. Oh, it's on top. Okay, here we go. Power on. All right. I'm going to be breathing in quite a bit of dust in this one. Taking one for the team. I probably should take it outside and give it a dusting first, but I'm more concerned about the issue, like the hardware issue, what we suspect is the problem first. So we're gonna try to tackle that before we clean anything. Now, I'm expecting this to load into Windows. It sounds like the owner does have multiple M.2 drives in here, and since reinstalling Windows in an attempt to circumvent the issue, he's created multiple volumes from the sound of it. So we're gonna have to tab into the correct volume. I think it's volume 7, and we'll let it idle for a bit and see what happens. Oh, okay, it loaded straight into Windows. I'm not sure on which drive. The owner swears he had 2 different ones on there. I guess it just defaulted. Did the screen just go black in the middle of filming that clip? Did it just reset? I'm gonna go ahead and keep the camera rolling here just in case we miss anything. I'm gonna connect my mouse and keyboard. I'm pretty sure it's just a screensaver. Now we can click enter. There we go, alrighty, that's good. I suppose it wouldn't have been a terrible thing if it had happened as quickly as I was worried there. All right, and you can see we've got a few games installed. The owner was trying to get things up and running with the new install, but it didn't pan out that way. So I'm just gonna let it chill here and see what happens. In the meantime, I wanna check a couple things. I wanna make sure that we have flow through these tubes. And if it doesn't feel like we do, usually you feel a very slight vibration. Wow, I'm not feeling that at all. Could that be our issue? Something that simple. Maybe when he removed the cooler, he forgot to reconnect the AIO pump cable? I can see this first guy right here, that runs up to the CPU fan header. I believe that is for the pump, and then there's another cable that runs around the back. So that's, I'm getting him confused. No, it's not that guy. Which one is it? Oh, this one here. Yeah, so this shorter one is running behind the motherboard tray. I believe this is like to power the fans and things. I just want to check back there and make sure nothing weird's going on. Also, between scenes, it's already been a few minutes. Things are still stable on this side of things. I can move the mouse and whatnot, no problem. You can see actually on the side of this power supply here, we have a wattage indicator. So right now we're idling just under 100 watts, not bad. I'm gonna swing this door out of the way. Looks like it's held in by a couple of Phillips screws. And peek at the rest of his cable management. Can I pull that? Yep, all right. And well, it's dusty, that's for sure, but I'm not seeing anything weird so far. Whew, I don't like doing that with systems on. Sometimes you can create static, but it's pretty humid here in Florida. I've never had an issue doing it. I try to avoid it generally because I don't like preaching this stuff to folks who might live in drier climates. That dust was going everywhere in my office, so I really had no choice. It does look like that second cable running around back was a splitter for fans, so we've got like 2 or 3 connected here. That's not gonna create any issues. I wonder though if maybe we have like a dead pump or something, because I for sure wasn't feeling very strong flow coming through that AIO. I've got i64 lined up because the system is still stable. It's been probably about 10 or 15 minutes since we first powered the system on at this point. And you can see in their extreme stability test software, I've got GPU memory, GPU hotspot, I've got GPU core, CPU package. I mean, everything looks great at idle. So to my surprise, frankly, this is stable. Like, I don't see any issues here. What was causing his system to reset definitely wasn't temperature related. In fact, while we're still rolling here, I'll go ahead, it looks like we've got a few things coming in from the owner. I'm gonna go ahead and click start. Let's see what happens when we stress the CPU as well as the graphics card. So simultaneous here. This is gonna be a simulation of, let's say, like a pretty intensive gaming session where both the CPU and GPU are heavily utilized. Temperatures have shot up pretty quickly as expected. I just wanna make sure that we don't severely thermal throttle or see any strange instability. Okay, there we go. So a few minutes in, this is not what you are probably thinking it is. It's the same as before, right? So the system is just going into the screen off mode, like a screensaver. And there we go, we're still running our burn-ins. So, so far, no issues at all. I've even already reached out to the owner and told him like, hey, apart from it just idling without issues, it's also running some pretty intensive stress tests without issues. And if I can't replicate what you're describing, then there's not really anything for me to fix here. I mean, at this point, I would say, unless something pops up in the next 30 minutes to an hour, I'm not gonna let this sit for several hours just baking, throwing dust everywhere and pulling power from my wall. I'm not gonna, I just don't have the time for that. If it's not acting up every few minutes like you're saying, then it's probably not something PC related. It's probably something in your house. And this is where we go down the rabbit hole of, well, it could be his power outlet, it could just be dirty power, maybe from his panel, or maybe even from his power provider, although I sort of doubt that because he's probably with the same power provider I am, and I haven't had issues here. But there are just a few other variables that I can't clearly account for here because I'm not at his house. And I know that's not the news he wants to hear right now, but like I said earlier in this video, the last thing I want to do is start tampering with things in here, especially expensive components like that 3090, if nothing is wrong. Why would I put my hands on something that works, right? It's the same in the automotive industry. If I saw a car running just fine, why would I start digging through and messing with stuff? Because all that's going to do is add further risk to something going wrong later. I don't want to be responsible for any of that. So you can see here, temperatures are clearly very stable. We're in the high 70s, low 80s at times. We're not seeing any thermal throttling of any kind, the bad thermal throttling, I should say. And the rig is, well, it's a bit loud, but it's not like crazy, especially considering we have several fans to keep things cool. Also, since I brought this up earlier and you're probably curious, I can feel fluid moving now. I think what it was the IO was probably on some variable speed, which I typically don't recommend. Just either leave it running like full speed or 50%, 75%. You can kind of play around with it and see what temperatures are at idle versus full load and find something there. It's not like it's the end of the world if it, moves up and down, but for pumps, generally, what I personally do is just leave them at one speed permanently. So that's just something I wanted to point out. Yeah, this is definitely moving heat, moving coolant. That's a good thing, and our temperatures reflect this. Coming up on 20 minutes now, and still nothing. I mean, it's frustrating because I want to see an issue. I want to fix what the owner is describing, but it's not popping up. And as much as I hate to give this back to him in its current state, I mean, there is nothing physically wrong with it here. I haven't seen an issue. The only thing we could possibly try that the owner mentioned is enabling XMP, which I don't believe is enabled right now. Now, I told him if I do enable that and you see system instability, that's probably just a result of 6-year-old DIMMs. As much as I hate to admit it, they're probably just silicon degradation, right? The memory chips themselves and voltage and frequency tolerances over time, they're not gonna be able to keep up with the demands of XMP after several years. Now, some should, in fact, most should, I would say, but I would not go so far as to replace DDR4 simply because they cannot reach their rated speeds 6 years later. Who knows what this thing has been through? And stuff is expensive nowadays, right? RAM is not cheap. It's one of the most expensive components in a PC build, which is wild for me to say. I never thought I would say that, but here we are. And so I'm trying to manage expectations with him because, hey man, if it's stable right now, I mean, you're not running XMP. All right, set some manual frequency lower than that. Play with memory voltages a little bit, but it just, in my eyes, doesn't justify an entire 32 or 64 gig kit swap. Like, I'm not gonna fork over that much money just to get you an extra 400 megahertz. Like, that's not a sustainable business model. So just being transparent with all of you, that's kind of where we're headed. I think just for the sake of my curiosity and science, I'm gonna go ahead and enable XMP and see what happens. But at least at like the default stock settings, I don't see an issue. And neither does Cash. He loves showing his butt to the camera. I don't know why. So here we go in the BIOS. I suppose it wouldn't hurt to check the BIOS revision as well, which came out in 2020. So I don't think the owner's ever updated this BIOS. It's a long shot. Maybe that explains some of the instability he's seeing, but it's hard to tell. It's hard to pinpoint, especially in cases like this. If he's concerned about this, we'll just go ahead and enable it. You can see that's going to bump up his DRAM frequency to 3600 megahertz across the board, 18, 22, 22, 42 timings and CAS. Also want to point out this Dr. Debug LED here can be pretty useful. We've also got debug LEDs below that for CPU, DRAM, VGA, and boot. You can see it is now on the green boot LED. I can tell you we don't have picture out just yet. There we go, just took a minute. It does look frozen. It's not liking that at all. Oh, well, sure enough, these are all from the same kit. They even share like matching chronological serial numbers, so I know for sure they were all bundled together. It's a 16 gig by 4 kit, and each one is again rated for 3600 megahertz and those 18, 22, 22, 42 timings and CAS. They're XMP 2.0 ready, so on paper there should be no reason why these can't hold said frequency. But it could just be, again, because of age and time and just degradation. What I will try doing, I'm just going to give this one shot because I don't want to spend too much time here, is manually setting a 36 megahertz frequency and then maybe trying to get close for timings. That way he's not losing too much in the way of performance. Now, this is a 10th gen Intel system, so it's not like he's losing a ton here. And again, that's another reason why I'm not gonna just replace these because they're not running at their rated speeds anymore, but I'm gonna try because, well, why not? Let's see here, I'm gonna try to set, I don't wanna go up as high as 3600 because we know that's unstable. So let's do like 3200. So 3200, I'll tweak the timings a bit. I'll see if I can get things honed in and give it my best shot at trying to get this thing stable with as much performance not left on the table as possible. And so far, no immediate shutdowns or lockups with IDIS64 running stress testing, not only the CPU, FPU, and cache, but also the GPU. Now, we're also stressing system memory. I should point that out. That's really important because that seems to be the crux of our issue. So with memory being heavily stressed as well, things still look pretty good. That's my phone ringing. I'll be right back. I was patient this time around and allowed IDIS64's stability test to run for over an hour, and temperatures throughout were perfectly fine. So this is the line in the sand. What I'm going to do as a last ditch effort here is update the BIOS. Again, the firmware is super old. I think just for security reasons alone, it makes a ton of sense to update this back from 2020. We've got 6 years of updates to account for, and you can see that it is running along smoothly. There are also other things that need to be updated firmware-wise, including RGB software and Intel ME. After all that was said and done, I booted back into the BIOS and tried XMP one last time. No idea what's gonna happen. It would be cool to give this back to the owner with XMP working correctly as intended, but you just never know. Sometimes BIOS updates do quite a bit, and sometimes they do literally nothing for issues like this, I should say. So this is about the only thing that I feel is a safe bet, a safe try, just given how old the original was. But you never really know. Looks like it's hung up here on the first splash page. I'm trying to get rid of that glare for you all. Is this really, are we already frozen? This is worse than before. Let's see, I'll press delete. Can I press delete? Nope. Yeah, this thing is, it's not gonna run XMP again. And we've just proven that it's not software related. It's not the BIOS, it's not the build revision or anything like that. It's just the DRAM, I expect. In fact, if we went to just 2 DIMMs, we could probably get XMP to work. But of course, the owner chose 64 gigs for a reason. I don't want to tell him to take 2 DIMMs out just for the sake of that stability. If he needs 64 gigs, I'd say that's far more important than hitting 3600 megahertz in an XMP setting. What I was able to prove just a while ago is that we could manually jump up to 3200 with the exact same timings and CAS latency that are advertised on the stickers of each DIMM. So I think that's what I'm going to fall back to. So we'll stick with 3200. I believe it was 18, 22, 22, 42, if I recall. And I'm probably just going to send him home with that. And I'll let him know that if he sees any more instability, much the same way that he saw previously while running XMP, that he needs to lower that frequency more. I can't promise him that it's going to last forever. In fact, it probably won't. At this rate, we can see we've already lost some of that headway. And so spending another $300, $400, $500, whatever 64 gigs, 4 DIMMs of DDR4 is going for today, for a replacement kit just to hit XMP, I don't really think that's worth it. That's why I'm not doing it. Personally, I'm not dipping into my own pocket for this because I can get the system stable. You're just not going to have quite the rated frequency or after anymore after 6 years of this. But if this was my system, that's exactly what I would do. I wouldn't go and burn $400 on another kit. I would just lower my frequency. I'd lower my expectations a bit. It served me well for 6 years. And if you're trying to squeeze even more mileage out of it, you just have to roll with the punches. Thankfully, this punch is not huge. If you held a 3200 MHz system side by side with a 3600 MHz system, you'd be hard pressed to tell the difference. And this being an Intel 10th gen CPU, it's not going to be anywhere near as sensitive as modern AM4 and AM5 stuff on AMD's side. So that's another good thing here. He's kind of dodged a bullet because of the age of the system. In fact, you can see to further bring home the stability point, we froze up even in the BIOS. So if this happens, if you're curious, where you set some sort of setting for DRAM or CPU voltage, whatever, and it's super unstable to the point where you can't even hop back into the BIOS to change it, just reset your CMOS. It's super simple. You can do it in a number of ways, and it'll get you back to a clean slate with super low frequency settings and voltage settings and all that stuff, just to ensure compatibility across the board. And in the case of this board, all we need to do is hold down this CMOS button. In fact, I think we only have to click it. I'm gonna hold it down for like 10 seconds, and we should be good to go. I'm in my Windows installation media for one final thing. The owner expressed his discontent with having two separate volumes and having to click between which one he wants to load into his PC for the first time upon every boot. I have authorization from the owner to completely wipe every drive. I think all of these are mostly fresh anyway because he was trying to delete all of them to get his system to remain stable. So we're gonna wipe all of these, and then we're gonna select the correct new drive that he prefers for Windows, so we only have one volume. It doesn't ask us every single time which we want to boot into. And it looks like the 2 TB here is the target drive the owner wants. This is the 990 Pro, so the new drive he added. So we're going to select this one and then click next. We'll let this play out. Once we boot back into Windows, we'll reinstall IDA64 Extreme one last time, run one final burn-in, probably for another 30 minutes to an hour, just to be on the safe side, and then call it a day. Again, I wish I could better pinpoint the issue that the owner's describing. I have no doubt that what he's saying is true. I mean, why would he waste his time otherwise? But I can't see it here apart from, again, that XMP issue. I'm not sure why it would behave differently at his house than it would here. Maybe he's confused about when XMP is enabled and when it isn't. What I can tell you though is that with XMP disabled, the system is extremely stable, as it should be, because those are basically base settings. And then with a manual tuning of the DIMMs themselves to about 3200 megahertz, and again with pretty tight timings, things still appear extremely stable. And that's how I want to give the system back to him. Coming up on just over the 30-minute mark here in IDA64 Extreme, again, stressing everything we stressed previously with a fresh Windows install and updated NVIDIA drivers. You can see temps are toasty, as you'd expect for a stability test like this. This is going to be an extreme case, so it's probably going to stress your components a bit more than a majority of games will. And we are pulling well over 600 watts at the power supply, so if that's any testament to how hard these components are working, and the system is still very stable. That again is with my manual DDR4 frequency and timing. So we're not using XMP anymore. Unfortunately, again, it just doesn't look like these DIMMs want to play ball, even with an updated BIOS, but we took care of that for them. We've proven, again, the system can be stable under the right settings, and I don't really see a need to touch anything else. Why would I? Everything looks good on Windows side of things. Also, boy, oh boy, is this system putting out some heat. But that's what it should be doing, so that's a good thing. Oh, and by the way, I had both side panels on for this test. This time around, I figured I should do that because the owner likely is at his place as well. So simulating more real world setup, and we still haven't seen the system falter once. Just about 92 degrees in the GPU hotspot, upper 80s for our CPU package. Yes, it is toasty, but again, this isn't out of the realm of acceptability, especially for a burn-in as intense as IDA64's. All we've left to do then is a bit of a subjective thing. I'm going to clean it. It needs to be air dusted at the minimum. This probably would qualify for a deep cleaning, but I'm, again, more concerned with stability, getting the system working again, and well, we didn't have to do much because it was already working at stock, like base settings. We don't have, XMP playing nicely anymore, and as unfortunate as that is, I think that the way we've got things handled now is a far better outcome than us spending several $100s to put another DDR4 kit in here. Again, it's an older standard. It just doesn't make sense in my book for a platform this old. Still extremely powerful, but again, on the older side. So let's take this thing outside and give it a quick dusting. Whew. That thing was dusty, and I'm not bringing it back up because it's heavy. I don't want to bring it back upstairs. It's gonna stay down here until the owner can pick it back up. Thank you so much for watching again. If you or someone you know has a broken PC, be sure to reach out. We'll get back to you as soon as possible. And yeah, thanks for learning with me.